But on January 17, 1966, a catastrophic accident over the skies of Spain sent shockwaves through the Pentagon. During the height of the Cold War, the world lived in constant fear of nuclear annihilation. To counter this, the US military kept armed nuclear bombers in the sky 24 hours a day.
Today, we are uncovering the classified mission that launched the most expensive underwater recovery operation in history. Let's dive in. The 1960s. Tensions between the United States and the Soviet Union were at an absolute boiling point. The threat of a nuclear strike was a daily reality.
To deter a Soviet first strike, the US military initiated Operation Chrome Dome, a continuous airborne alert program keeping B-52 bombers in the sky. These planes weren't carrying standard weapons. Tucked inside were 4 B-28 thermonuclear bombs, each 70 times more powerful than the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. On January 17, 1966, a B-50 bomber was cruising high above the quiet Spanish fishing village of Palomares. It was time for a routine mid-air refueling.
At 31,000 feet, a KC-135 tanker aircraft extended its boom. But there was a fatal miscalculation in their speed and approach angle.
In a fraction of a second, disaster struck. The two massive aircraft collided mid-air, igniting a blinding fireball in the stratosphere. 7 crew members were killed instantly. Tons of flaming wreckage, along with 4 unsecured hydrogen bombs, rained down upon Palomares.
Back in Washington, the Pentagon went into absolute red alert. The code word Broken Arrow was initiated, signaling a lost nuclear weapon. Search teams swarmed the Spanish countryside. Within 24 hours, they quickly located 3 of the bombs on land. One bomb was found relatively intact in a dry riverbed, but the other 2 had struck the ground at massive speeds. The conventional explosives inside 2 of the bombs detonated on impact. While no nuclear explosion occurred, there was a massive problem. The blast threw highly radioactive plutonium dust across the tomato fields of Palomares. The village was contaminated. The US military immediately dispatched disaster teams. Hundreds of soldiers arrived in bulky white hazmat suits. They faced a monumental cleanup task. The radioactive topsoil had to be completely removed to protect the villagers. Over 5,000 barrels of contaminated Spanish soil were packed up and shipped all the way back to a nuclear graveyard in America. Authorities were furious. The press demanded answers, but high-ranking officials tried to keep the exact details classified. No comments at this time. No comments! To prove the beaches were safe from radiation, the US ambassador and a Spanish minister famously went for a swim in the ocean. But behind the public relations stunts, a dark reality haunted the military command. Ground searches, metal detectors, and dogs had turned up absolutely nothing. The terrifying reality finally set in. The 4th bomb, the world's deadliest weapon, had fallen into the Mediterranean Sea. The Mediterranean is vast and endlessly deep. Finding a single bomb down there was like finding a needle in a global haystack. The military's only clue came from a local Spanish fisherman named Paco. He had been out at sea during the crash. Paco reported seeing a gray parachute with a massive cylindrical object trailing beneath it, splashing into the water. He memorized the exact coordinates, using the mountain peaks on the shore as his reference points. Based entirely on this fisherman's word, the US Navy mobilized Task Force 65, the largest salvage fleet ever assembled. Over 3,000 sailors and dozens of ships began scanning the ocean floor using sonar.
But the underwater terrain off Palomares wasn't flat. It was a jagged landscape of massive underwater mountains and deep canyons. Standard sonar couldn't tell the difference between the hydrogen bomb and a large rock. They were searching blind.
Weeks passed. The Soviet Union began sending their own spy ships to the area, hoping to snatch the bomb first.
The pressure on the US Navy was immense. They needed eyes under the water. We must find their position now. They needed to send men to the bottom of the sea. In 1966, deep-sea exploration was still in its infancy. But the Navy had a secret weapon, the Alvin. Capable of diving incredibly deep, operated by a crew of only 2 or 3 men. The Alvin was lowered into the water. Its mission? Follow Paco the Fisherman's coordinates straight down into the abyss. As the sub descended, the sunlight quickly faded. Below 1,000 feet, the ocean became pitch black and freezing cold. Inside the cramped, freezing sphere, the crew stared out of tiny fiberglass windows, looking for any sign of metal. For weeks, they searched the muddy bottom, diving every single day. They found old shipwrecks, trash, but no bomb. Hope was fading. But on March 1st, 1966, almost 2 months after the crash, the Alvin's headlights caught a groove in the mud.
It looked like something incredibly heavy had dragged itself down a slope. The crew followed the track deeper. At a crushing depth of 2,550 feet, they saw it. A massive canopy of gray synthetic fabric swaying in the current. It was the bomb's parachute, and tangled beneath it, barely visible, was the silver casing of the hydrogen bomb.
Paco the Fisherman had been exactly right. But the bomb was in the worst possible position imaginable. It was resting precariously on a 70-degree incline, a sheer drop-off into an abyss thousands of feet deeper. If they bumped it, or if the water currents shifted, the weapon would slide down into a trench too deep to ever reach. The crew radioed the surface. "We found it!" The surface fleet erupted in cheers, but the hardest part had just begun. Recovering a multi-ton object from 2,500 feet had never been done. From a surface ship, the cable unspools down into the dark water. The Alvin used its small mechanical claw to try and attach this lifting line to the bomb's parachute. It was a painfully slow and dangerous process. Finally, they managed to hook it. The surface ship began to pull. The surface ship began to pull. The bomb lifted off the bottom, 10 feet, 20 feet, but suddenly the lifting cable violently snapped. The worst nightmare came true.
The parachute engulfed the bomb, and the entire weapon plunged back down into the
darkness. It slid completely off the cliff. When the Alvin finally tracked it down again, it was now at an agonizing depth of 2,900 feet. They couldn't risk the Alvin again. The Navy brought in an experimental unmanned robotic vehicle called Curve. Operated via a cable from a ship, Curve was sent down to the bomb. Its mission? Attach new, stronger grappling lines. But as Curve attached the lines, it malfunctioned. Its metal arms became completely tangled in the bomb's parachute. The robot was stuck to the bomb. The command ship had to make a drastic, unprecedented decision. This is our only choice. They weigh an impossible decision. They decided to pull the robot and the hydrogen bomb up together, hoping the robot's entangled cables would hold the weight. For hours, the winch pulled. The whole crew held their breath. If it snapped now, they would lose both the weapon and the robot forever.
Then, the water broke. A massive splash, and the silver casing of the hydrogen bomb broke the surface of the Mediterranean.
On April 7, 1966, after an agonizing 80-day search, the world's deadliest lost weapon was finally secure. The impossible had been achieved. Disaster was averted, and deep-sea engineering was changed forever. The Palomares incident remains a terrifying testament to human error, but also an incredible display of resilience and engineering. History is full of these world-altering moments. The recovery of the Palomares bomb was an absolute miracle. Because of this terrifying ending the era of 24/7 airborne nuclear bombers. In our next video, we will explore another pivotal moment, the true story behind the attack on Pearl Harbor. Don't forget to subscribe to Mr. Show, and I'll see you in the next documentary.